Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. I have Don Weber, who is currently based in California right now, but does dance between California and Europe, in particular Madrid. Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you.
I hope you don't mind me saying dancing, but I don't know why that came into my head. But I'm not suggesting you're a dancer or anything, Don. But I just kind of like California to Europe. I didn't want to say fleeting, but you said you have an office in LA and you also then have an office in Madrid.
Great.
It
Mhm.
sounds like a great way to live and work. You're a leadership and communication coach, and you're the founder of Dr. Weber Coaching, where you help executives and teams master, I love this bit, stress management, which we need more and more of, less of stress management, but more at mastering how to remove it, difficult conversations and body language, non-verbal communications, so they can lead clearly under pressure. You also said when you booked in for the pod, and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience when it comes to life leadership and or business, you said stress management, dealing with difficult people, body language, and non-verbal communication. So just reinforcing what you're all about.
Okay.
You said you
Good.
started the company back in 2013 and 14 and started training in India. In India, tell us your journey because you've had a business for quite a good time. And so it's quite amazing to hear about your journey.
Sure. Amazing. Actually, my background goes into business and economics. I used to work as an insurance broker for a large insurance brokerage, still big name. And I left that company because they sold off their North American operation. And I went to Europe. I'd been to Europe many times before because I have family over there, but I went to Europe and I started a business, not immediately, but within a period of time in the diamond business in Antwerp, working with
Wow.
I went and studied gemology, diamond grading, emeralds, and things like that. And then I got involved in buying diamonds around the world, rough diamonds, and polishing them back in Antwerp. And I did that they did that successfully until about 2008 when we had the financial crisis that made the business a lot more difficult. Plus, there was a lot more regulation added into the industry, plus a lot more taxes. So, what happened? I took some years off. I was traveling around the world looking for myself in India, let's say. That's a
Yeah.
joke. But
Searching.
and I really loved India. It was a fascinating place. And I was doing some teaching there for them related to IT security. Actually, I was taking classes and teaching classes on IT security. And they asked me to stay on as a teacher, and I'd never been a teacher. I don't have a background as a teacher, but I really enjoyed it. And for a lot of like uh, detail practicalities, I didn't stay in India. So I came back to Europe and in Spain, landed an opportunity to teach. They needed a English speaking, Spanish speaking person to teach a public speaking class for the Ministry of Agriculture. And somebody had just, I don't know, whoever the trainer was just disappeared and they needed somebody like today. So I filled the spot and it turned out to be somebody in the building or whatever from IBM's human resource department. Well, they approached me and offered me a job as a trainer for IBM for many, many years. And
Wow.
that led to opening doors to all kinds of Fortune 500 companies. So I was really doing things were really, really good up until the pandemic. And it was all face to face pretty much. I mean, we did some online stuff, but it was primarily training big groups of people and negotiations, public speaking, how to motivate your teams. Then the coaching stuff was more one to one. So maybe I have an executive, middle manager, could be
Yeah.
an upper senior manager, and they're having issues, particular issues with something, but would always be one-to-one things.
Relationships.
Um, I've always had an interest in that area, and going way back, I had met and been at some of Tony Robbins' early events before Tony Robbins was known. First event I went from Tony Robbins was in
Yeah.
Illinois, uh, in '89 approximately, something like that. I'd met Zig Ziglar way back in the '80s and things like that. Partially because my dad moved sort of in those circles, so I was very familiar with Wayne Dyer and Jim
Yeah.
Rohn and all these kinds of teachings and stuff, and read a lot of books. So I really enjoy the area. I respect the area, and that's why I do it. And as time has gone on, I've gone about trying to develop my skills more, and that a lot of times has to do with developing myself. Because
Yeah.
how do you teach something, right? It's
Yeah.
not within you.
Yeah. So true. So true. You dropped that then the pandemic here. What happened with your business with the pandemic? It sounds like, yeah. And so, like all the training, because you were doing all this training and, Fortune 500 and everything, did you, and it was majority face to face, and then all of a sudden the world shuts down, no one can see anyone face to face. Did you have to then stop and quite literally take a pivot and work out, well, what do I do with this my business next? Because you'd obviously been very successful in other industries and, from diamonds to what you were doing in insurance, etc. But and listening to you, your passion and your joy is when it comes to helping supporting people and making an impact in people. And I want to get into the stress management and dealing with difficult people and communication, etc.
Sure.
Were you like at that point going, oh gosh, what do I do now? Like, did you have an India moment where you were like, gosh, I need to be back in India to work out what I do next? Like, yeah, I wanted to say, did you have an India moment? Because you brought it up earlier. Like, we all have our life moments where it's like, it's like, what do I do now?
Basically what happened, everything stopped. Like, like somebody slammed on the brakes. I work a lot with the Ministry of Defense in some of the European countries. So those trainings continued and we just pivoted to doing it online. But
Hmm.
I'd never trained. Can you imagine teaching people how to speak in public online? How do you teach them the body language? It was very complicated, especially the first couple of courses. In fact, I did it in tandem with a senior. He's older than me. He's more years training he works at university, doing it together online because it was kind of a challenge for him as well. The first couple of courses that we did to try to figure, okay, what's the best way? Because it's not like sitting having a coaching session with somebody. Oh, I have this problem. I feel this way.
No.
I have an issue with this employee or this client. That's a little different. Public speaking is really more actually doing it and whatnot. So we came up with systems to do it. I was pretty lucky because I was at least, I don't know, I'm always prudent. So I make plans, for rainy days. So I was in a situation I could weather out those years because it was years. It was like 2 years of like nothing was happening. From an emotional standpoint or psychological standpoint, pretty quickly I realized within a week or two, I knew something was wrong. Something was really wrong. That there was more going on here than just simply there was a bug, right? And whatever that means, people can interpret as they want. But I knew there was something that wasn't going in the right direction. And then when things did start to wind back, I came back to the U.S. Actually, what I did is, okay, I left Spain because they had us like in full lockdown, and
Yeah.
it was really, really terrible. I can tell you horror stories, but the authorities were a bigger problem than the actual virus itself. I
Yeah,
went to Germany.
I was in Spain in 2022 and it was pretty wild. Like just I actually like we were just coming out of COVID. It was pretty wild, the restrictions over there as well. But anyway, sorry, interrupt you. Yeah.
No, 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 no problem. They were just over the top, and I was near Catalonia where they're a bit more,
Yeah.
the police are more authoritarian. I saw them beat people up and stuff like that. I mean, just really uh, non-correct type behavior. Anyway, I left. I went to Germany, where you'd think it'd be worse, right? I get to Germany, and I go into a gym, and they tell me, no, no, no. In this gym, if you want to wear a mask, you can't become a member here. I'm sitting in the metro, and nobody's wearing a mask. So the next time I'm in the metro, I'm not wearing a mask. I've got it like in my pocket, and the police walk by, they say nothing. I'm like, wow, this is really different. So it turned out in Germany, in Berlin particularly, but also in Munich, it was like up to let's say if it was a private shopkeeper, a grocery store or a shop, the owner would tell you you must wear a mask, or in this space you don't need to. It was only mandated in federal buildings and airports and a few things like that. So
Yeah.
it was way more relaxed, and it wasn't like in Spain. It was like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. In Germany, it was like they had these signs, right? These little signs that COVID's no big deal. These are the symptoms. You'll be fine. I'm not joking. And like a phone number. If you feel really bad, you can call this phone number. And by the way, they had the lowest fatality rates in Europe.
Yeah.
One of the countries lowest.
It's
The management.
so much is coming up for me on this, Don, because it's kind of relates to your business, what you're doing, because COVID hits and you're confronted with no longer doing face-to-face communication, if you like. You then have to go online and start, and it's almost like for you had to then almost pivot with how you train in communication, how you train in public speaking. And video is just so like natural these days for what we do. And I want to get into the communication piece, but the other part you just brought up, which I find fascinating, which again relates to your business, is the duality of stress. there's good stress and there's bad stress, right? And you've just talked about what it was like in Spain
Right.
and the stress that everyone was stressed out. Our nervous systems were off the charts no matter what, like from a COVID perspective. Everything was blowing up for us. There was good things that came out of it, but a lot of the time it was pretty horrible. And then you go into Germany and it's like this healthy stress. It's like it's here, but let's not let it ruin our lives or cause even more stress. I want to talk about how these kind of situations, like how they play into what you do with execs and teams and leaders in terms of, the communication, dealing with difficult people, and also, stress management, because stress is huge at this point in time with the world we're in. And COVID 5 years ago, we're in a revolution of AI, like everything's going on politically, around the world, so much happening. Stress is more prevalent than ever, as is burnout. Tell us a bit about what you're doing to combat that.
Well, about stress management, there's a study that was done in the early 1900s at Harvard called the Yerkes and Dodson study. And what it showed is that stress is a motivator. It creates, in fact, it increases productivity up to a point.
Mm,
And as soon as you hit that point, it all goes downhill. So, like large organizations and good managers, they know this. So, what they'll do is you stress your employees for maybe a week or two. We've got the deadline, we've got whatever, get this project done. And then you give them a week or so and back off and let them have a chill. And then you do it. It's just a cycle and you do it back and forth. And that's a way of getting the most out of your people without burning them out or making them, just crazy, basically. But it is very true. Stress management, there's good stress and bad stress. When we're overstressed, we know there's a thing called cognitive load. What that means in simple terms is how much your brain is working.
yeah,
And when you have a high cognitive load, studies show that you're about 30% less intelligent.
yeah,
That's a lot.
it
That's a
is.
lot.
It's huge.
So stress reduces your intelligence, basically, right? And your creativity and everything else, and your productivity and everything that goes along with it. Again, a little bit of stress is good. If you're competing in sports, you're gonna run off the line or something like that. That initial spark, that adrenaline is good, but it's not good for sustained periods of time. How people they t- A lot of times people, managers, leaders, and stuff like that, they ask me about, well, how do you manage your stress personally, right? And the solution I have is not usually most people in the corporate world are particularly interested in, to be honest, because it's real practical things at work, but it requires a commitment. And it's things like I meditate morning and night. I do some kind of exercise nearly every day. Doesn't have to be super intense, but at least I'll go for a run or a bike, but something that gets my VO up and gets my heart going and stuff like that. I do the meditation thing every day, unless it has to be something really bizarre. Like if I have a 5 a.m. flight, kind of thing, maybe it might not happen. That's about the only exception. And I found over years, because it takes a long period of time, I'm able to maintain a really good internal balance because everything comes from the inside, right? So I still have unpleasant situations. I deal with people. Sometimes, it's not whatever. I mean, of course, it's always them because I'm perfect. I never make a
Yeah.
mistake. It's them, right?
Same.
I'm being sarcastic for those who are listening. But anyway, but what I'm getting at is I get to run into this kinds of stuff. So it's naturally the first thing is to get either defensive or stress or whatever. But then I realized, no, I need to just kind of stay in my space, mindful, right? And put things in perspective too. How important is this going to be next week or next month, or if it's really important in 6 months or 1 year or 10 years? Who's going to care? Does it really matter? And that is, by the way, one of the cooler things about as you get older that younger people don't understand is you get older, you get you care less about stuff. You
Yeah.
give a rat's, you know what I'm
You just
saying,
know.
about things.
You just
Huh?
know it's going to sort itself out. It's going to resolve itself, right? Like versus holding on for dear life, going, "Oh my God, the world's falling apart," sort of thing. When it's actually, it's going to be okay. It's just like you say, when your cognitive load, you call the 30% stat out. I know when my cognitive load is overloaded, I am overwhelmed. I am not functioning at my best. I'm irrational, but when I've subtracted that load, I am such a better person for it. And I think that's and it's being that it's that awareness, it's noticing when hang on a second. I just need to,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. And that's where a lot, that's, I think the big difference is where the person has the ability to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm going into the wrong, wrong space, or I'm going into the wrong, I need to back off and put things back in perspective and just kind of get my, I don't want to sound like all like metaphysical and stuff, but get my center or whatever word it is, but just get back to myself and just chill out. And it's not that big a deal.
No.
Maybe they're having a bad day, and I need to understand that.
Yeah.
They're not talking emotional intelligence, right? But they're having a bad day. That doesn't mean I need to have a bad day. I
No.
can be empathetic. I can understand what's going on with them. I don't even have to agree necessarily,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, but keeping myself at where I am. And so many people, they get tied up in their physical environment that they don't know how to separate. They take everything that's around us, that's a lot of people, that material, and they take it like it's part of them.
Yeah. It's an
We are
outside
inner.
in. It's versus the inside out approach, right? Like we're so ingrained to, like you say, the material, like what success looks like from the outside, and we attach ourselves to it, and then we get so attached to it, we think that that's the guide, that's the guiding light. But actually, it's only when meditation, or it's when you come back and you center yourself and you become whole again, that the outside is actually the answers always come from within. And it took me a long time to learn that. I had to go through my own identity and burnout crisis and all of those sorts of things to actually go, oh, okay, it's all in here and it starts in here. And I love your thoughts on that from a leader's perspective, because like you deal with Fortune 500s, high performance, high performing businesses, high performing teams. How, like, I mean, for you to go and say that, like, I'm not say, but like, talking about stress, de-stressing, like, what do you give them the practical tools? Like, are they interested in like t taking on things like meditation? Like, how do you work with them they want you, they engage you, right? And they're like, I need to work on my stress management. Quite often what I see with these type of leaders is they resist. They're like, there's nothing wrong with me. It's my team. It's the organization. It's the outside in approach, right? And you're looking at them, you're thinking to yourself, it's you. I know it's you. Like you're causing the chaos. You're causing the stress amongst the business. You would see that so often. How do you, how do you tackle that? How do you kind of work with a leader to get them to become aware of their own downfalls when it comes to stress and what the stress they're causing on themselves? Because I put a lot of stress on myself. I caused most of my own stress from stressing.
That's a great question, Belinda. I think it depends. Okay, when we're talking leaders of these large corporations or important organizations, whatever, you run into one thing all the time. Sometimes people are like egos that are out of balance. That's another. We'll save that. We'll separate that for a moment. But we're talking like a leader who's relatively in touch with the world and with themselves, and they're not like what I'm saying, in an ivory tower or whatever. A lot of times you can best help people. Just that's what coaching is great, by asking questions and
Mm.
knowing the right kinds of questions to ask. So they draw their own conclusions based on your questions. Your questions basically help guide them in a certain direction, not to an outcome, but to the best outcome for themselves. So they come up with the best solution for themselves through a series of questions, right? I mean, as I like to tell people, and the leaders, they big man, they a lot of times like here's, you're not your title. I'm CEO of ABC Bank. Cool, are you? So that means if you lose your job, then you're nobody. I've actually said that. I said that to a guy who was retiring from an $80 billion bank. And from experience, having worked with other people, I say, now that you're going to retire, you're going to go through a lot of changes, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things you're going to find is a lot of people you thought were friends or allies or whatever are going to be gone.
Yeah.
Oh, but we continued working together for about another, even after we retired, for about a good 2 years. And he told me towards the end of it, he goes, it's really hard. After retirement, it's really hard out here, And you were absolutely right about, because I'd seen it happen to other people in the past, because they get sometimes their egos and stuff, and they just think that they're just so great. And it's the organization that they're leading. It's their position. It's actually not them. I mean, how many times, Belinda, have you met leaders of really important organizations who actually are not that qualified. Maybe it's the wrong word, but not that
I hear you. I hear, and I'm saying,
you're
it's,
like,
I
wow.
think it's prevalent more than ever at this point in time because I think COVID caused a fair bit of, chaos with, and I just don't think that leaders. Don't get me wrong, there's some amazing, great, strong leaders out there, but I think this comes back to, communication and leaders, don't have necessarily all the required communication skills, if you like, today and to the new world order that we're in right now, and how to handle those difficult conversations, how to communicate, how to handle stress, all that sort of thing. So I think that, yeah, I see it a lot. And I think that at the end of the day, when we lead from an inside out approach and we're leading from a whole, and I think that that makes a fundamental difference. But instead, we get so caught up on the business, the profit, the numbers, etc., etc. We lose sight of actually what am I here to do? What am I here to lead for? What am I doing for my people? I don't know. You might disagree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Numbers and profit and abundance is important, but it follows. It follows if you're leading and communicating and showing that empathy, that vulnerability, but also being clear in terms of what the goals are. Yeah.
Super. Yeah, the worst thing I've seen is, of course, you have in organizations where the people don't really understand clearly what is the objectives of the company or the strategy or the direction. I mean, it's like I use the analogy always: you have a captain of a ship. If his crew doesn't understand the captain can't communicate to his crew, they're never going to get anywhere.
No.
Be floating around in the sea, going all over the place, but not to the port that they're trying to get to. So it's really critical that that leader, being like the captain in this case, can actually communicate to his staff, to his people, and even better, he can empower them a little bit. Look, this morning I had a meeting with a retired CEO of a very large insurance company. This guy's worked in multiple other organizations. And he was telling me, yeah, well, I'm a results driven guy. All I care about is the results, 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 results. He's talking numbers, right? Which is super important in an organization. I mean, a company needs money because it's like air for us for breathing, right?
Yeah.
But if you're missing sometimes the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? The money is important, but there's other things you need to look at. And if you over prioritize one or the other, either one, or let's say over prioritize soft skills and people and communication, but not the numbers, that's an unhealthy organization. And the other way around, if you just care about making money, but you don't care about your people, you got an unhealthy organization. So either way, you need to have a balance. And I
I,
think life is like,
I totally agree. And it's really interesting you bring up the soft and hard skills, right? I was having a conversation with someone else on the pod yesterday and we were talking about this. And I'd love your thoughts on this because I brought this up because I was like, and it's even just what you were talking about. Like we've separated hard skills and soft skills. But what we actually need to do is to interconnect the two now. And yet we still have this where we separate them. We're like, you need to focus on these hard skills, or it's like, oh, we're not, soft skills are starting to come a lot more into play now because everyone's realizing, oh, guess what? Like humans are, the personal, all of that is super important when it comes to leadership. But it has been quite, rigid in terms of it's one or the other. And it's like, so how we bring those two together. And I think even in the definition of hard and soft, I feel like there's an opportunity to reshape what they actually stand for and what they actually should be called going forward. And I'd love your thoughts on that because again, communication, difficult conversations, it's both skills it's required, like at the end of the day. Like, so yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
I can go in a few different directions. I mean, it's really important that somebody's in any job, whether they're the leader or just the director or a middle manager or whatever, that they're technically competent at the job. I mean, they can be the greatest person in the world, the best conversationalist, really great at soft
I
skills
didn't
and
feel like it.
communication and all that. Okay, that's all really great. And then they probably should be working in L&D or maybe HR or something like that. But even HR, you need technical skills, right? But
Yeah,
you got to have the hard skills. You got to have those technical skills. I mean,
yeah,
that is really important. But people sometimes they forget about the other 50%, having that balance. And there's some people that need it more than others. You know, if you have a guy who's just programming AI all day long and does not interact with human beings hardly at all, well, maybe he doesn't really need to have soft skills, at least for that job.
No.
He might need it later on, but for that job, maybe he doesn't. But most people we're supposed to be dealing with people. I know they're trying to build a society where everything's going to be a chat box, it's going to be AI, and that's all I'm going to interact with and all that. That's what they want to build, right? But that sucks. I like working with people. I like talking to people. I mean, it's fun. People are generally are fun. I mean, when I go to Starbucks, um, rather than always order it on the app. Okay, yeah, I can order in the app. I go in, I pick up my coffee, and I walk out. Save time. But the barista, who's the same two or three baristas are there, right? I mean, so it's nice to have a little conversation with them, whatever. So it's. I think people are missing some of the. I don't know. Going to the grocery store is kind of fun rather than just calling Bolt and having them deliver everything to the
Yeah,
house.
I know. I know. Tell me a little bit about difficult conversations and how you're dealing with them when it comes to like, are you seeing more and more difficult conversations in business now more than ever, given even what you were just talking around like that in terms of AI, people, like there's so much change happening in organizations and also for leaders, etc. Like,
Sure.
is that something that, yeah, I guess that one question is, are you seeing more of the difficult conversations coming up and how to handle them? And the second question I think is around what are you seeing as the biggest opportunities at the moment for leaders when it comes to, communication, stress, etc.
Making a note here, so I stay on. So I stay on. Sometimes I go off on tangents, and that's
No,
not
I
good.
love it. I do too. And that's why you're writing stuff down because I'm going, what about this? And what about this? And it's like, I've got this dress on. I've got my crazy hands in the background. Like you're starting to like, we're having a flowy, formless conversation right now. It's not just one stuck shape. It's different shapes. Yeah.
Well, um, a difficult conversations. I do a workshop on that, and basically, what I teach people, I say that first off, right? Who's the bigger fool, the fool or the person that's going to argue with the fool,
Oh, that's good.
right? Okay. So once you figure that out, are you dealing with a fool? No, I'm not dealing with a fool. Ah, okay. And then there's something we can maybe do about this, right? If I'm dealing with somebody who's just not going to have a conversation with me, or has already made up their mind, and what it's not worth your time. But if
No.
you got somebody who's halfway reasonable or you can get through to, well, it's really important to use like what we call strategic empathy, which is really listening to the person, trying to see where they're coming from, putting yourself in their shoes and their perspective on things. Always like the analogy. If everybody's wearing like blue glasses, well, everything's looking blue. Everything
Yeah.
you look at is a blue tint. If
So
I'm wearing
true.
red glasses, everything has a red tint. I'm wearing yellow, well, the same, right? Yellow tint. So people a lot of times don't see reality. They see it from their own perspective. And it's really important to be aware of that, right? So it's a really active listening is real, 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 real important to understand where the
So
person's coming
true.
from. So if I don't know where you're coming from, I don't have a chance in hell to be able to change your mind or to be able to really state my case. But once I do understand your perspective or think I do, then I need to make sure I clarify that I do understand it, in fact. And you might ramble on, no offense, but you might ramble on more saying, well, yeah, but really what I mean is this and this. But nail it down that I understand where you're coming from. Once I know where you're coming from, then I can come up with, well, do I agree with Belinda? Or maybe I disagree. If I agree with Belinda, I say, you're right. I hadn't thought about that way, blah, blah, whatever. If I disagree with Belinda, then I might going to say something like, well, based on my experience over the last 15 years, la di da 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 da, based on research, da 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 da, based on the data, na 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 na, whatever, based on what this person said, whatever. There's different ways that you can counterbalance the argument. The idea isn't to change a person's mind. The idea is to provide data and information where they may start to consider that there's another way to look at it.
Yeah, I love that. I use the term feedback with positive intent, and I love your notion around strategic empathy because it is that ability to have potentially another point of view. And it's almost like a bit of improvisation here as well, the yes and not just the butting it out and just killing it straight away, but having that, I guess for me it's that ability to I think we need to be able to feedback more with the likes of positive intent versus just killing something or putting someone down. shutting them down. Do you know what I mean? I just think that's when it's not required. It's that ability to actively listen and then go, well, like you just said, based on, having that strategic empathy. I really like that. I haven't heard the term strategic empathy before. I might borrow it from you.
It really comes on this, and this is like a nugget that your audience can take away. Is it all comes down to ego. If I need to be right, I've already lost.
Yeah.
I'm doing nothing. If I need to be right, let's just say this, Linda, whatever we have a disagreement about something, and I know 100% that my position on something is correct. This percent, we'll pretend, right?
I love it.
Okay, no, but regardless, and you have another opinion, it's really important for me to come to understand. I mean, if the relationship is important, whether we're working together, whatever, but let's say it's important. It's really important for me to understand why you believe that. Is it based on your values? Is it based on beliefs when you were a kid? And I'm only going to identify that stuff by listening. So I need to really put my ego away. It's not, you know what I'm saying? People, it's too much. Oh yeah, and I run around a lot of those people. Oh yeah, I'm just the best. You're at the end of the day, you're nothing because in 80 years or 90 years, you're going to be like in a hole in the ground in a bunch of mud. You know what I'm saying? We all die. We all put on our socks the same way, right? We all eat food. We all do things that animals do, right? So we're not so special. And I don't care if you remember royalty or whatever. I've been around. I've worked with members of royalty. By the way, the ones I've worked with have been super well mannered, extremely well. But I've worked with a lot of people in private sector that are not such nice people.
Mm.
Sometimes I wonder if they have a little bit of narcissistic tendencies or even psychopathy. I'm not joking, huh? And I'm talking big, big companies that you would know the name of.
Yes.
Not stretching it at all. It's
No.
like, wow.
Yeah, totally. Don't
Now
have,
the biggest,
no, you keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
same biggest opportunities, right? Uh, are you talking opportunities for trainers and coaches? Or are you talking opportunities for the leaders themselves?
Oh, good question. I hadn't thought I was thinking leaders, but now that you've brought up both, I
Well,
think there is an opportunity for both.
opportunities for leaders, I would say, is because we have these challenges in communication, it's particularly with the younger Gen Z. Sorry, guys, I'm not like picking on you, but it's a fact. Most are not that great at. There's like some serious social deficiencies there, and I can give you examples all the time. Go to the gym. I mean, it's like it's amazing, right? Um, so I think the opportunities that you can find is if you can find the people who have good social skills have a far advantage. Okay, we know the employment market's probably going to become more difficult with AI. There's going to be a lot of layoffs. It's already happening with white collar jobs, massive. So whether those jobs will be replaced with new kinds of jobs, we'll see. But right now, that's not the case. So if you instead of having 100 people competing for one position, right? So you have 100 candidates for one position. In the future, you may have 500 or 1,000
Yeah,
or
I know.
10,000.
Crazy,
So
isn't it?
what's gonna make the deciding factor? Well, one is obviously the hard skills, the technical knowledge, profile, okay, age, whether you're supposed to or not, people take into account age, gender, and all that. They do. They'd say, well, because we want this profile because it's gonna be the right whatever for that job. Sorry, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing that it brings into it is I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. We were talking about okay. What was the first thing I said?
We were
The
talking
biggest
about
opportunity.
we were talking
Yeah.
about leaders, and then you
Uh-huh.
asked me if it was about leaders or coaches, and I said it was started about leaders.
Oh, job candidates. That's it. Or okay, so job candidates that are very good at their technical skills, better than anybody else, fit the profile, which is like the age and gender and all that stuff, and have great social skills.
Yeah.
Those are the three elements. So if you've worked really well on your social skills, you got really good ones. You're really good technically. You have a shot at getting that job. The other 999 people who haven't really worked on themselves, and they might be competent to do the job,
Hmm.
but
Very
their social skills are kind of out the window, so it's not going to happen.
I've got last two questions for you. It's been a great conversation, ego. How would you say that do you ever battle with your own ego? Like you meditate morning and night. You've talked around leaders and, I've certainly gone through my own rebirth in the last few years in particular from the previous world I was in to now. And I can certainly say my ego is a lot more in check. I was never like an egotistical, but we've all got an ego. We're all competitive. We've all like, like materialistic things, etc. I know when my ego's taking over very like now versus when I'm just at one with myself and like can see I guess I'm just a whole. I'm whole when I'm not letting my ego take over, and I'm a lot more. I'm a better person. I'm more present. I'm more purposeful. I'm all of that. I'm a better performer as well. How do you like? Would you say that does your ego ever pop up? Like, do you have to sense check it at all, or do you feel like you've got it into such a, I guess, rhythm now that it just doesn't exist. Like it's like, yeah, I've always been intrigued about this with people that meditate like you. It's incredible.
I live in nirvana 24/7. Absolutely, absolutely not. I don't ego as far as prestige and money and stuff doesn't even really faze me because I'm not. I know it's just passing stuff and it's not mine. I've seen too much. I've seen too many things already happen where, okay, great, somebody's got wealth or whatever, and then it's gone. You can lose it,
Yeah,
prestige, positions, and all that. But I will say, for in my case, like ego, when I feel attacked, especially personally attacked, or I'm being insulted, or I feel that way, yeah, then that triggers fear, and immediately the mask comes up and the ego comes out. And that's generally, I'm not gonna say it's the only time, but it's definitely the most common uh, trigger that I'll have when ego comes up. So I have to be aware. Okay, ego's coming up. Why? Okay, what happened? What happened? And it's real good, really good if I can do it in that moment when I'm in front of the person.
yeah,
Try to stay humble. And some people interpret like you're weak or you're, but it's much more important for me than trying to say. So at the end of the day, I already know the real deal, so it's not
yeah. It's so true. It's so
important
true, John.
to
I
prove.
think we all need to practice that more in business and in life. Those it's back to those difficult conversations. What would be one piece of what do you see as you can have you've got a choice. It's up to you. Like it's either advice or opportunity for coaches and trainers. Like we've talked a lot today around stress, difficult conversations, communication, but also then revolution, AI taking over, not taking over, but like changing the job landscape, etc. Yeah, it's up to you around advice or opportunity, but for coaches and trainers to, I guess, help shape what this new world order looks like, what do you see as the biggest opportunity, or what would be your piece of advice for anyone coming into this field as a coach or a trainer? Does that make
I
any
think a
sense?
lot of I think so many people, when I was growing up, they used to teach a thing called the golden rule, and it was a key concept. The idea is, you treat other people the way you want to be treated. And if more people actually knew that, they don't teach that anymore at school, by the way, to my knowledge. If people were to implement that in the life would be a lot better. Earth could be a paradise if people looked after each other. And it's not going to work by creating a communist or socialistic system that's imposed on you. It's got to come from within.
Yeah,
So if people are looking out for the best interests of other people. Like, why was like I can't? I'm pretty good. I'm good at sales. I'm pretty good at sales, but I won't sell somebody something they don't need. It's just like because I'm not cool with it. And I really appreciate when people do that. Say, look, what I've got can help you, but maybe if you go here, they can help you with that because I don't think what we're offering is the best solution for you. I mean, it always makes me feel really good. So I think treating others the way you want to be treated, loving others the way you want to be loved. Basic concept. It's biblical, by the way, but it's a very basic, simple concept. Maybe not so simple to implement, but a simple concept.
yeah,
In fact, if people live actually by that, we would live literally in paradise.
yeah.
But
I love the
I think
idea of
it's
living in paradise. I did see your biblical book because you've got amazing books behind you. It's such a great backdrop, or biblica, I should say. Yeah, I saw it. It was a black book. It just stood out and it popped out. It's like you saw my picture in the background. Don, how do we find out more about you? How do we find out more about what your business?
well, either I have a website, drwebercoaching.com. You can visit. I have some online classes as well if you're interested, like on-demand video classes. Or you can go to LinkedIn and look me up under Don Weber, Don Weber, Weber. That might be the either the website or the LinkedIn would be easiest.
Love it.
So the
And one last question. What are you going to do this weekend to get into your flow state? You said you like to bike ride, you like to run. Like what's your weekend flow state looking like for you?
Yeah, I do usually tomorrow I can go martial arts because there's a martial arts class. I've been doing martial arts for years, Krav Maga, and there's a class actually they just started tomorrow, Saturday mornings at 9, so I could go. I was going to go yesterday, but I was really knackered. So after I finish with you, I have to go to the bank and do something there. It's Friday, and then after the bank, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm doing legs today. I'm doing bodybuilding today, so I'm doing squats. That's a killer workout. It's about 2 hours. It's my hardest workout of the week. And then I'll come home. I don't think I'm going to it's a sunny day though here. So I don't think I'm going to take the bike to the gym though. I think I'll take the car. And then I'll come back, I'll have dinner. And probably tonight I'll spend some time either with my sister or my mom and dad.
I love that. So cool. Well, it's nearly 10 a.m. here on a Saturday morning, so I've got my little puppy sound asleep. So I'm about to get into my flow state, take him for a walk, no phone, get a coffee, and then come back. And then I'm going to go and do a hot mat Pilates class. So that will be
Oh,
it's a great way
cool.
to actively recover and ease my way into the weekend. So Don, on that note, I'm going to let you go and do your hardcore workout, your 2 hour leg workout. But I've really enjoyed our chat today. Thank you so much for your time. It's incredible what you're doing, and more than ever, we need people like you and myself as well, in terms of from a training, coaching, guiding perspective when it comes to that stress management, those difficult conversations. But most importantly, how we come back to be at one with ourselves. Because when we lead and when we live, lead, or have a business that is from the inside out,
Mhm.
anything is possible. And you called out the paradise word as well. So I really do appreciate your time.
And people breathing, just simple breathing techniques work as well. I teach that a lot in my classes. I mean, it's something so simple. There's a Dr. Wells from Harvard Medical School, and he's got a whole like thing on breathing, whole courses and stuff. And it's really simple, but I think the guy makes a really good living on teaching people how to breathe.
Yeah, I feel like
But
I will do a breathing course at some point, like because I know I need to breathe a bit more at times. But that's what I do in the class this morning. Is we start with our breath work, and we end with our breath work. It just brings you back.
yeah, I think so. It helps that and it slows down your metabolism, your heart helps you relax and stuff like that. I mean, that's a real simple one for like the normal person who meditations maybe too not difficult, but some people it's like they have a hard time sitting still for 5 minutes or
Mm.
gosh, even 1 minute. I know people, I family like that, yeah, and friends. It's like after 2 minutes, they're like, okay,
Yeah,
let's go do.
totally. Yeah. And if anyone from the audience is feeling a bit misaligned, I do offer a 60-minute complimentary diagnostics in the show notes. I'll also have all of Don's stuff in the show notes as well. So on that note, we're both going to head off to our weekends, and thank you and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Yes, everyone have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your day in Australia. What part of Australia are you in?
Melbourne, Australia.
Okay. It's cool. No, but you're in the southern hemisphere, so it'll be warmer. You guys are
Sort of.
going into
It's
spring,
spring, but
no?
it's not. Anyway, Don, you
Not
and
yet.
I keep talking. I'm gonna switch us off now.
Go for it. Cool.
Take care. Thank you, Don.